Hi, this is Danny Ryan, the VP of Business Development and co-founder for ThreeWill. I'm here with Pete Skelly, the Director of Technology. Thanks for coming on to this, Pete.
Thanks, Danny.
And what I wanted to do was to continue on the conversation that we were having about your white paper. And you gave us a real good, in a previous episode, gave us a good background on sort of who the audience is for the paper, and I thought you did a good job of sort of framing up the context of the different phases of what we're seeing as far as how apps are being built, and it's really good. Sort of it's led us up to this sort of changing world with the cloud ecosystem. And the next part of your paper, you cover the business impact of the cloud ecosystem. And I know you almost this was really helpful for me just to define some terms and to sort of set up how have things changed in a cloud ecosystem. So you mind just giving us a sort of an overview of this section and some of the things? It would even be great just to go through some of the definitions as well.
Okay, so I think whenever we talk to customers about sort of moving to Office 365 or to the cloud, the first thing they ask is, well, what's the cloud? It's such an overloaded term, and people refer to, on the news, they refer to the cloud as almost like this, fictitious server sitting in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So I always find it helpful to define some terms so everybody's on the same page. So software as a service really is an application that's provided completely through the internet. So delivered via internet, consumed by users, using devices, or kind of the software is completely delivered to web clients, native clients, all without kind of ever installing anything. It's just something that's delivered and is ubiquitous.
And you put as an example for this like Office 365, probably like Salesforce as well.
So Office 365, Outlook, any of the Exchange, Workstream, Outlook, calendaring tasks. Salesforce is a great example as well.
Gotcha.
The infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, and a lot of folks call software as a service SaaS, but infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, is really, I think most people are familiar with this in the IT community. People have been using virtual machines for years, virtualized storage. This really kind of takes that a little bit to the next level of saying, I've got pre-installed software, maybe bundles of software. But it still requires maintenance. You're still required to kind of patch the OS or patch some of the applications. Whereas in the SaaS world, I'm not responsible for that. I'm going to get the latest, kind of the term used is evergreen. So I'm always going to have the latest updates in a SaaS environment. So for Office 365, if they're going to roll out groups, for example, the groups feature in Office 365 and Outlook, that just appears. So you don't really have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to upgrade my server. That kind of goes away in the cloud, and that has some serious business impacts. So from a discussion about business impact of cloud ecosystem, one of the things we always like to talk about is, how do I kind of balance some of those? And the third sort of delivery model of the cloud is PaaS, or platform as a service. And that's really providing a compute platform or a solution stack as a service. And typically that's built in public or private cloud and just provided for you. So it really enables you to deliver an application, focus on that business value of that application, and not have to worry about maintenance of the infrastructure, how it's delivered, but you're also not necessarily worried about that full service software application. So as a company or as an enterprise, it may not be a product you want to sell, but it's a service you need internally. So you can use that platform as a service, or PaaS, and actually build your custom software or custom solutions on top of that PaaS infrastructure, and really get the benefit of all that virtualized infrastructure, but now you're not necessarily consuming that sort of off-the-shelf or COTS SaaS solution. Mm-hmm. But that really does have some huge impact to business. Like I said before, I don't have the opportunity anymore to delay my desktop upgrades so that all my clients are on the right version of Outlook, for example. If I'm going to move to the cloud and I'm going to have Outlook as a web app, and I'm going to have people use the Outlook web applications or Office web applications for Word, for example, that impacts how I kind of do my business and actually take care of upgrades. My users are going to see some things happen that I may not have control over anymore. And that's a pretty considerable impact. So in the last 10 years, whatever the number is now, there's over 100 million licenses of SharePoint sold. Well, the typical use of SharePoint has always been on-prem, so how this kind of hybrid world or even just moving completely to the cloud, that changes how I do my business. I'm going to have to think about, do I want all of my information in the cloud? Do I want, how is my business going to be impacted if I move everything into the cloud? Do I need to separate some of that data and have a hybrid environment where some data might live on premises so that I have tighter control over it? Or maybe it's in an IaaS situation where I have control but I'm getting the benefits of the cloud. Or I'm using PaaS and actually integrating with third-party services in order to get some of that control. So the world's changed a lot in exciting ways, but certainly has some serious impact to business.
So you mentioned, is hybrid when you mix a couple of these different models, or what? How does hybrid fit into this? Is it when you're doing some where you have on the traditional IT where it's on-prem and you're mixing one of the other models with this, or how do I guess you can clarify that?
Yeah, my definition of hybrid certainly is, I've got on-prem and cloud resources. Since I could have, private cloud, I sometimes cringe at that statement, but businesses and enterprises have been, and quote, doing the cloud on-prem for quite a while. I've had.
I got a private cloud in my server closet.
Exactly. I mean, really, that's when someone says private cloud, you basically have you been virtualizing servers and kind of some of your hardware for how many years now? So private cloud kind of is a strange, but hybrid really to me is, I've got businesses have real needs for kind of owning data integrity or really being ensuring that they're meeting compliance standards, or there just are some situations where moving to the cloud just may not be a possibility, or it just may be a business decision that they're not ready to do that. So to me, hybrid, and really for most of our customers at this point, hybrid really means I have a mixture of on-premises hardware and software that I'm consuming, and I have a mixture of, it could be third-party cloud apps, it could be Office 365, it could be Azure, it could be Amazon, whatever, Google, it doesn't really matter. But I've got, on-prem and cloud resources that I want to integrate, and that could be I want to provide a central search location, so I actually want a hybrid search of cloud resources and on-prem resources. Or I may want to have an application that pulls from content that's on-prem and in Office 365 and sort of integrates a composite application, if you will, using task management and calendaring from Office 365 Outlook, and some of my on-prem business data. So today hybrid really to me means I have on-premises information and cloud information that I want to interact with. And to simplify it, there's probably some better technical terms, or from a business perspective, hybrid just means I'm not all in on cloud. I'm still going to have some infrastructure on premises for a while, and I think in most large enterprises, it's kind of that's going to be there for quite a while.
Yeah. Have we seen any? I guess initially seen any patterns for how people are doing this? As far as trying out the moving from traditional to other models. I know that I've heard different projects that we've been sometimes surprised at how different people are moving to the cloud. But anything that you've seen that's of interest?
Yeah, I think the kind of two most prevalent patterns we've seen so far is if I'm going to move to the cloud, if I really want to take advantage of some of the cost savings, for example, I'm going to start to consume commodity services. So really, I'm going to look at calendaring and email, obviously. Some of the voice and video for Link, obviously some of the CRM things like Salesforce and Dynamics. The things that I think have surprised me are that hybrid search has been more often than not a way that people have kind of integrated into kind of a hybrid world or kind of going to the cloud on their terms. And so, we've seen a few customers where they'll actually say, well, yes, I want to consume Office 365, but I have, a huge investment in on-prem SharePoint, and my processes for provisioning, maintenance, governance, all of the things that I'm doing internally, I just have to manage those on-prem, and it's probably going to take a long time to transition that into the cloud, into Office 365, and some of it may never go. So search has been actually a big kind of lead into moving to the cloud and saying, okay, I have content in the cloud that maybe I provision portions of projects or team sites, but then internal projects and products and product management is internal, and they want to keep that content on-prem in order to search. So I think that's really the two things, sort of having email or collaborative commodity services drive the move to the cloud, or having search kind of drive that move to the cloud. It's been a kind of an interesting twist on something I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah. It seems like from an outsider looking in at sort of how different people are making the move, it's like a no-brainer to do, the Exchange piece, to do the Link piece, but then there's a level of complexity that comes with what we're going to move what, and that's where you have to apply some forethought to it, and how do you want to do this, and it seems like hybrid's going to be the way a lot of people are going to decide to go, and I think it adds a level of complexity to things, but you just got to come up with the right approach for it.
I think I'm sorry to interrupt,
go ahead.
that kind of idea of hybrid is the enterprise cloud is really when we did the live event to introduce the white paper. That's really what we were saying. And it is, if I deliver that again, it's one of the kind of bullet points in the slide is that's enterprise reality. If you're a small to medium-sized business, if you're an independent insurance broker or something of that nature, you can go all in Office 365. If you have terabytes of data, if you have business processes that you've defined on premises using SharePoint workflow, if you're integrating with other kind of legacy systems on premises, you're probably going to have to be hybrid for the foreseeable future, and that's not an 18-month window. That's probably a 5-year or more window.
Well, it's great. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And the next topic that we'll hit into is the business impact of continuous delivery. Thanks again, Pete, for your time.
Well, you're welcome.
And thanks, everybody, for listening. And our next episode will be coming up will be business impact of continuous delivery. Thanks so much.